With summertime upon us, it's a great time to talk about summer camp movies. There's all kinds of things you can do at summer camp, whether it's play volleyball or play a little cornhole, swim, maybe even rearrange somebody's brains with a power drill. You just never know. So today on Drew Reviews, we're going to talk about one of my favorite summer camp movies of all time, and that's Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers. You guys ready for the Happy Camper song? Don't forget the hand motions. Oh, I'm a happy camper. I love the summer sun. I love the trees and forests. I'm always having fun. I'm a happy camper. I love the clear blue sky. And with the grace of God, I'll be a camper till I die. So before we get into Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers, I want to talk about the original Sleepaway Camp for just a minute. I'm probably not going to review the original Sleepaway Camp unless there's just overwhelming demand for it, because to me the movie falls just a little bit flat. It's a really low budget movie and it does some big things which I commend it for. But other than the big reveal at the end of the movie, which gives me the willies, it's scary to this day, and that noise that Angela makes is just otherworldly and crazy. And a few kills. Other than that, the movie falls flat to me, and unless you guys want to see it, I'm probably not going to do it. This movie here is an entirely different animal. Sleepaway Camp 2 is a dark comedy, and it sets out to be nothing but a dark comedy, kind of making fun of all the others while it's at it. So this movie stars Pamela Springsteen, which is Bruce Springsteen's little sister, and she does such a great job in this. I'm surprised she didn't go on to do a whole lot of other things, because as the director said in the making of video, she hit this out of the park. From the moment he said he saw her in that audition, she came in to read for the part, and she got about 30 seconds into it, and he said that she played this with just enough of a quirkiness that he knew right away that was Angela Johnson. It's Angela Johnson in this story because apparently she's gone under the knife after the events of the first movie. But the director said that he loved her so much in this read that he told his secretary to tell the other 8 people he was going to see that day, just don't even bother showing up. So, yeah, it kind of surprised me that she didn't go on to do more things. This movie also has Walter Gotell in it, who was General Gogol in the Roger Moore era James Bonds. I'm going to review some of those on this channel because a lot of those are fun and I want to talk about them. He's Uncle John who runs the camp, and everybody in this camp, I'm assuming he got that name from John Hughes because all of the characters in this movie are named after Brat Pack characters except for Angela. The head counselor is TC, Tom Cruise, right there. You've got, Rob and Charlie and Amelia. It's funny because their sister Renee Estevez plays one of the lead characters in this movie. And you've got Demi and Judd and Allie, and the list just goes on and on. I love that attention to detail, how this was the mid to late 80s, and they were just poking fun at that genre as well. But in this movie, the character of Angela, just pretty much, she's the goody two-shoes counselor. And anytime anybody does anything off-color or off-putting or sexual or cursing or whatever, there's like a panty raid in this movie, and the girls go and steal their jock straps. There's girls flashing and everything. So anytime there's anything like that, she sends these campers home. There are some very creative kills in this movie. I'll get into that in just a little bit. But yeah, she disposes of these campers and sends them back home. And later on, that catches up to her a little bit. But that's basically the premise of this story is she's back at this camp. What used to be Camp Arawak, now it's Camp Rolling Hills. How she got there, I don't know. It had to have been her Uncle John, But anyway, so she's a counselor, and she's just taking care of all the bad seeds. So as far as things I liked about this movie was shot at this dilapidated YMCA camp in Waco, Georgia. And it hadn't been used in a long time. They only had a budget of like $560,000, I think I read somewhere, which is tiny for what they achieved in this movie. To have to get this camp back up to snuff in a movie. Although there is this one scene. I guess the swimming pool had a ton of algae in it for being left dormant for so long. And if you look in the establishing shot of the camp with the flag and everything, you will see the algae floating in that pool, no matter how much chlorine they put in it. So that's kind of a fun and gross little fact that, they couldn't quite get it clean. And you'll notice in some of those scenes where they're swimming, like where Allie goes, without her top and just a white t-shirt, she's swimming through algae in that pool. It's kind of off to the sides, but it's there. But with that budget, I'm going to get into the things that I really like. And the effects in this movie for $400,000 movie are really good. Anytime they're in the woods at night, they've got it backlit blue and they've got fog coming through, and it looks amazing. It looks better than a lot of the later Friday the 13th movies in that regard. The blood and gore in this movie look pretty good. When she's hacking off somebody's limbs or stabbing somebody in the back and blood spurting, or the scene where she gets Mare with the power drill that I alluded to in the beginning, just blood squirting all over the place. It looks really good. Most of the characters are pretty good. There's a little awkward romance there between Renee Estevez's character of Molly and the character of Sean. Uh, it's all right for what it is. Of course, they're making Allie jealous, and I really like that Allie character. She's kind of the spiteful, slutty one, and she kind of drives the plot a lot in this movie, and I really like that character. The character of TC is pretty cool. If you've ever been to a summer camp, and I went for a couple years there for like a week at a time, you always wanted the cool counselor, and that's what TC is in this movie. Just the way that he talks to Angela. The boys go over and do a panty raid, and the girls go over to get the guy's jock straps. I guess that's a thing. Anyway, after Angela threw a fit at her cabin, TC's just like, whatever, just don't mess anything up. Wake me when it's over. But the reason to watch this movie is Pamela Springsteen as Angela. She attacks this role with just this gleefulness. You see the look of joy on her face as she's offing these terrible, terrible kids. There's a scene I was talking about earlier with the power drill. You got the character of Mare who flashed her boobs to all the guys. And so Angela's sending her home, and she's driving her down this road, and she's looking for something. And Mare's like, "What are you looking for, a gun?" "No, a drill." And the way she says it, and just gleefully gets her as the blood splattering everywhere. I love that scene. She fricassees the Schultz sisters on this open pit and for doing drugs, and that's a great scene too. When the one wakes up and the other one's barbecued, and the death of Allie is the greatest thing in the movie. She's been fornicating through this entire movie and showing her boobs and just being an awful camper. And so there's the scene where she stabs her in the back when she turns her back on her and shoves her in the outhouse. This scene is so disgusting. Of course it was all made up for a movie, but you would believe she was down in that hole. If you've ever been to like a state park and you've had to poop in one of those things, you know what I'm talking about. She not only throws her in, but she takes a stick and she's pushing her in there and holding her under the piss water until she drowns, and it's gargling sounds and there's leeches on her. It's nasty. And this movie is great for that. I was totally immersed into that scene, as bad as it was. I love Angela Baker for that scene. There's some other deaths in this that are good, but the one that I really like is the lead up to the death. It's whenever people are disappearing slowly, and the cabin's getting less and less populated by campers. And so you got the character of Demi. She's like, it was a funny thing. You sent such and such home 3 days ago, and so I called, and her brother hadn't heard from her yet. And as she's going on and on, you got the character of Angela. She takes a coat hanger and she's kind of whacking it to see if that'll kill her. She takes a boombox to see how heavy it is. And she's like, nah. Finally, she takes her guitar string. She takes it like piano wire and just chokes her out with it. That was really cool. One of the scenes near the finale where they come up and there's the big reveal that she's killed all these people, and you got all the deaths and people laid up against walls, and that's a really cool scene, and it kind of a tip of the hat to the makeup and effects guys, because it's like all their creations are right there in one room. In that scene, she's got the characters of Molly and Sean tied up, and Sean's mouthing her, and she beheads him. And when Molly ends up waking up later, Sean's head is in the TV, and that head is actually a really good severed head. I've seen heads in way bigger budgeted movies, bigger productions that didn't look as good as that one did. The end of the movie where you find out that she's killed everyone's a really good reveal too. You've got that one counselor who comes in, and Uncle John's dead, and Rob's dead. And it's just, there's bodies everywhere. Of course, Angela had been fired, and so she leaves camp and she gets in this truck with this old woman, and of course she's talking terrible and talking about how she's too fat to. So you just see the look come over Angela. It's like, yeah, this lady's dead. So she ends up taking her truck, and then that last scene in this movie, while it's not near as impactful as the last scene in the first movie, I really like that. That's a howdy partner. That's a great way to end this movie, and true to that Angela character. The score to this thing's okay, but it's got some pretty good rock songs in it. The band Anvil, which I actually like, that not a whole lot of people know about Anvil. If you've not seen the documentary Anvil, the story of Anvil, watch that. It's really good. But they got a song Straight Between the Eyes on here that's really good. As far as some of the things that I don't like in this movie, other than the characters I named earlier, like TC and Molly and Sean and Angela and Uncle John, the rest of them, and the Shoat sisters, the rest of them aren't so memorable. They're not given a lot to do, and they're just there to be red shirts, to be bodies for the body count in this thing. And I kind of wish they had a little bit more depth. They also had this dream sequence in this movie where they didn't have quite 80 minutes for a feature film. So everybody's like, hey, let's take all this footage we've already shot and put it into this dream nightmare sequence for Angela. So, it goes on and on. Nothing like the softball scene in the first movie where I can go get a DiGiorno out of my freezer and cook it and come back and they're still playing softball. But it is kind of a drawn out scene. Although that part where she's got the guitar and I'm a happy camper, that always makes me laugh whenever I watch it. Some of the kills in this movie are a little bit lame. You got these two boys of a nighttime, they're going to scare Angela. They go out dressed as Jason and Freddy, and it's just, I don't know. I felt like this movie didn't need that. You've got the two little boys, Charlie and Emilio, and they've got the old Polaroid camera, and they're taking nudes of all these girls, sneaking in their windows and everything. And that scene doesn't age too well in this, too, considering those boys are like 10 or 12 or something like that. So now it's time to rate Sleepaway Camp 2 on Happy Campers. So I'm going to tell you straight up, I didn't see this movie until my 30s. And it's a fun film. It knows exactly what it is. It's low budget, and it does have some issues. I'm going to give it a 6.1. I think that's fair. I think it's a 5.5 or something like that on IMDb. So 6.1 is about as high as I can go. Now, if I'd seen this when I was a 14-year-old boy, with all the gratuitous nudity in this thing, I can tell you straight up, back then I would have given this a 10. Just to kind of tell you, heads up what you're in for with this thing. But like I said, it's one of my favorite summer camp movies. It's a lot of fun. If you want to waste an hour and 20 minutes of your day, you could go a whole lot worse than Sleepaway Camp 2. So coming up next, guys, I've got another Ask Drew. Sent out a lot of questions. You guys sent them pouring in. Finally going to get that out to you guys. After that, it's probably going to be Planet of the Apes, finally. I've been promising it for a while. You guys love that Beneath the Planet video, so we're going to go with that. So guys, before we go, I just wanted to thank you all. We're getting close to 100 subs, and when we do hit 100 subscribers for this channel, I'm going to make an announcement for later in the year. It'll be kind of big. Stay tuned for that. As always, be sure to like and subscribe. We still need to get to 100. And as always, I'm Andrew, and I'll see you down the line.